They get their name, the Great Park, because of their size. They are the largest owls we have here in North and South Carolina. And in the horn part, you can kind of see the little things sticking out top of his head. They look like horns. But they're not horns. Some people think they're ears. They're not even ears. They're just feathers that stick out on top of their head to help them camouflage or blend into a tree easily. Now this one on my glove is called Dumbledore. And Dumbledore, like all great horned owls, is an opportunistic raptor. This means they eat anything and everything they can find, whether it's mice and rats, snakes and lizards, possums and skunks, and sometimes even other birds.
Wow. It's a good thing that this eastern screech owl is so good at blending in, or else that great horned owl would have eaten him for sure. Well, this is Lana, and he knows that nothing's going to happen to him, so he's not really trying to hide right now. Despite being small and cute, eastern screech owls actually have a lot of different ways to prevent themselves from becoming a meal out in the wild. One of them comes right out of their name, and that means, well, they can screech. Well, it's not really a screech or a hoot like you might think an owl would do. It's really more of a high-pitched whistle. And while that might not frighten us, if you weren't expecting it, and such a loud noise came from such a small animal, it would probably stop you in your tracks. And if you were a predator out in the wild, that might be enough time to allow this screech owl to get away. But if that doesn't work, screech owls have a few other tricks up their sleeve. And one of them is the ability to play dead. Now, this isn't really the trick that your family dog does. Screech owls can actually lower their heart rate down to just a couple of beats per minute. They'll go limp, they'll close their eyes, and their body will actually become cold. Now, if you were to go home today and there was a turkey dinner sitting in your driveway, you're probably not going to eat it, right? You're just going to want it moved out of your driveway. Well, a predator in the wild is going to have the same reaction that you did to that turkey dinner. Because they're not sure how long it's been there or how long it's been dead. They're not going to eat it because it might make them sick. So, they'll think that this screech owl's been dead for a long time and they'll pass it by. But if none of those things work, probably the coolest thing that screech owls have to defend themselves is another trick called skinnying up. Right, Jake?
That's right, John. Rather than telling you guys about skinning up, I like to get some audience help and showing you guys how to be eastern screech owls. So who thinks they can camouflage like a screech owl wants to help me up here on stage? I need 2 volunteers. All right, young lady right here. All right, you 2 can come up here. Hey, I can take 1 more. All right, one more. You want to come up here? Come on up. You can come up if you want to. We'll have you 3 over here. So if I can have the 2 of you stand in front of one of these stumps right here, and if you want to come right in between them right there. All right, guys, so I'm going to stand over here, and you're going to imitate everything I do to camouflage like a screech owl. All right, so first we're going to fluff our feathers up. Come on, fluff your feathers up. The other side. There you go. All right, so you're just a really juicy mouse. It's a really nice evening, but then all of a sudden a predator comes out of nowhere. So you're going to sit up really straight and tall. You're going to bring your arms really close to your body, like you're sucking your feathers. You're going to put your feather tufts up in the air over your head, and you're squint your eyes so that predator doesn't see those big yellow eyes. You sit very still, not moving 1 feather on your body because there might be a predator somewhere around here or right behind you. So if you can stay very still, you want to make sure that they can't see you, all right? They're not going to be able to do anything. So the one we have up right now is what we call a Eurasian eagle owl. And these guys, and there's the other one. These guys are actually not native to this area with their name. They're actually found more towards Europe and Asia, and even as far north as Russia. Now these guys look similar to our great horned owls around here, and that's because they're both part of the family Bubo. Now the great horned owl that you saw earlier, and the 2 Eurasian eagle owls out now, both have light colored eyes, and this means they're what we call crepuscular hunters. And crepuscular means that they actually hunt at dawn and dusk rather than the darkest parts of the night like a nocturnal owl would be. These guys can weigh anywhere from 4.5 pounds to 8 pounds and have a wingspan anywhere from 4.5 to 5.5 feet long. Thank you guys for being our screech owls, and we return back to your seats with your family. Thank you so much. And now we're going to return back from Europe and Asia back to the fields and the farms of the United States to visit our next silent hunter.
Hey guys, how we doing?
Good.
Those owls that flew overhead were pretty quiet, were they not? The reason for that is because owls have a different shaped wing, more square shape. They have denser feathers, and then they have fringes, an outer fringe on the edges of their wings and feathers. And this helps them fly silently, hence the name Silent Hunters. If you guys would all take your hands and spread your fingers real wide, now, and without blasting your neighbor, put it next to your ear and wave it back and forth really, really fast. Now take that same hand and close those fingers and wave it back and forth. Can you hear the difference? This is a little louder. That's the difference between nocturnal, or our owls, versus diurnal daytime hunting birds like falcons or hawks or eagles, other birds that you'll see walking the trails here at the Raptor Center. Fringe. Think fringe. Now typically, owls aren't very, very strong flyers. So they rely on the silence of their approach to sneak up and catch their prey, little ambush hunters. The exception to this rule is short-eared owls, who are actually very strong flyers, like Shiva here. Short-eared owls are incredible flyers. They actually perform aeroacrobatics during mating season to attract their mates. They're the exception that proves the rule. Another really, really cool thing about short-eared owls, they're ground nesters. Now, this is very atypical behavior for owls. They typically like to have elevation so they can drop on their prey whenever the opportunity presents itself. But short-eared owls nest in the ground, and it's only the female incubating the eggs. An interesting tactic that they've evolved to overcome the liabilities, like predation from ground predators, like foxes, even neighborhood cats and dogs. An interesting technique that they've developed is to play the wounded bird. So a mother short-eared owl will pretend that her wing's broken, she'll drag it along on the ground. With a little more panache than I just managed. But drag it along, and they'll actually lure the predator away from their nest. Part of the problem, though, is sometimes some predators or some things that would be seen as predator for owls don't fall for the trick. Typically, this would be farm equipment, actually, since they do nest in fields, especially in the Midwest. Farm equipment, combines, things like that, are a liability for short-eared owls. So they won't abandon the nest when it doesn't work, and they'll leave the scene.
That's right, Blake. And even though they do face some of these difficulties out in the wild, they're still very good survivors and hunters. A short-eared owl that would be out in maybe a field will actually be able to find a mouse running around in that same field without having to see it at all, just from hearing it, listening, and running around on the ground. Now, another animal or another owl that you might find around a farm or in a field is another type of silent hunter, which is a barn owl. And our own resident barn owl, Willow, actually has very excellent hearing too. Here she comes. She'll go right around the stage and come right back up to one of these perches up here in the front. Very good, Willow. Now this one's name is Willow. And Willow here is a barn owl. As I said earlier, they get their names because they do live in old barns or old buildings that nobody uses anymore. Now these guys actually are very good hunters. You can notice with her that she actually has smaller eyes compared to those of other owls, and that's mainly because barn owls rely almost solely on their hearing to find their food. And that heart-shaped face is not just for show, it actually helps hone sound to her ears, much like a salad dish will get you extra channels on your TV. Now these guys do eat a lot of mice. On average, a family of 4 barn owls will eat over 1,000 mice a year. And because they're found on every single continent except for Antarctica, they actually help keep the rodent population down worldwide. Now you think that being so close to people, these guys would be a lot more easily spotted, but that's not necessarily the case. These guys are very secretive birds. They like to hide right away from other predators that won't be able to see them. Step up. Very good. Unlike their friends with a similar name, the barred owl.
Did you guys hear that? I think I heard a barred owl. Barred owls are one of the most common owls we have here in the Carolinas, and you can usually identify them by their distinct hoots. It sounds a lot like who cooks for you all, and here comes a barred owl now. These guys, we only have 2 owls in the Carolinas that are hooting, so typically you can figure out who you've got in your backyard. But when you look at this barred owl, this is Lulu, one of our residents. A lot of times you might wonder, am I going to be able to see a barred owl in the wild? Well, certainly. These guys don't actually camouflage or blend in quite as well as other owls do. If you look at her, she's got the brown and white stripes along her chest, or the bars, and that's where she gets her name from. But the other thing about them is that these guys are cavity nesters. So they want to have their babies inside that cavity, protect them for a little bit, but they also want to get them out of that cavity quickly too, because they have to worry about predators like snakes or other animals getting inside that cavity and injuring their babies. So the best thing is during nesting season, a lot of times you'll see them right outside their cavity, the mom and her babies right there along the tree. So a lot of times you can actually spot them out in the wild. But these guys